Hello, and welcome to Totally Schway Flipside, the sister podcast of Totally Schway, a podcast about the DCAU. Flipside is the podcast that is about whatever the hell I want it to be about. So today, I'm going to get straight into it. I want to talk about X-Men 97. And I don't usually like to do episodic type of things, but I feel that with this, because it is so fresh and it's so fun, that I want to talk about some of the episodes by themselves. Some of them I'll group together. It depends on if you guys want to listen to it. So my name's Mary.
And my name's Luke. I thought you weren't going to introduce me at all. I just sat here going, oh, is she going to invite me to say who I am? No.
So if you guys have come across this, which I don't know how you would without
it's the algorithm.
Yeah, without seeing Luke's channel. He has a channel. Do you want to kind of plug your channel? Even though you should be plugging mine.
Well, this is going to be on your channel, so I think it's fair that I have my little
go for
pedestal. So I have a channel called Serum Lake where I put out video essays about mostly Batman the Animated Series characters, but I'm doing some Superman, Batman Beyond. I will get to Justice League and maybe some other DC shows in the future if I ever feel like it. I've also had some very good opportunities to speak with the people that made Batman the Animated Series and have put out videos looking at their storyboards. I've done episode and movie commentary tracks with them. What else do? I can't think of anything. Totally Schway podcast, of course, as you already mentioned, the DC Animated Universe podcast. Let's
also mention this. We're married.
Yes. Well,
all right, shall we get into this?
Yeah, okay. So I think we should explain first, though, that you didn't really watch an awful lot of X-Men the Animated Series, did you? The original run.
I did, but there were the last two seasons that I did not watch.
Mm-hmm. So you watched the first three seasons.
Yeah, I think... What is the season with Phoenix?
That's the third season.
Yeah. So I watched a little bit after that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I finished that season. And there was a fourth and fifth one, wasn't there?
Correct.
So I finished off the Phoenix season, but I never got around to the fourth or fifth. Now, what I'm doing at the moment is occasionally I'll watch an episode or two, because, adulting is, filled with depression in life, and I can only get through a couple of episodes at a time. But I am trying to get through the entire series, just to refresh my mind and to actually get to those seasons.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm the inverse of that. I watched every episode when it was on the air back in the day. I bought bootleg DVDs before it came out on DVD with every single episode in it.
Favorite character?
Oh, it's probably Wolverine. I'm sorry,
obviously.
That's really tedious, but Wolverine was my favourite. I liked Gambit as well, but Wolverine was just better. He was in so many episodes. There were so many Wolverine-centric episodes, and they were mostly brilliant.
Yeah. My favorite character is probably Wolverine. I have to do that. I'll tell you my mom's favorite character.
Rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that.
But yeah, you've seen all of them.
Yeah, I have. And BTAS was, I should say Batman the Animated Series, was my favourite show, hands down, light years ahead of X-Men. But I really liked X-Men. In fact, my mum would watch X-Men with me when I was a little kid because she liked the soap opera elements in it. She was like, why is Jean into Cyclops? He's really boring. She should kiss Wolverine.
Oh my goodness, Mama B. Now, I guess it was just one of those cartoons that was just on, and I did enjoy it. I also enjoyed the video game.
Yeah.
It was a really good video game, I have to say, because that was at the time where a lot of TV shows, like kids' TV shows, were trying to come out with video games and kids' movies and stuff like that. Not all of them were great. I'm gonna be honest. Not all of them were great. But X-Men, I really, really liked it. And it wasn't too annoying for me to play, because I'm one of those people that will play a video game, and if I get annoyed with it, I won't go back to it.
So specifically, which game are you talking about?
The one, what is the name of the one where they're like, you have like two different characters on screen, and then you're fighting. What is that called? Not top down, but side-scrolling game.
Yeah, side-scrolling.
And then I remember there's one where you go from the cement of the street to like grass or something.
What platform was it on? Super Nintendo?
I think it was Super Nintendo.
Okay.
I think. Editing Mary might come back in here and tell you differently. Editing Mary here. I have done thorough research for about 5 seconds, and the name of the game is X-Men Mutant Apocalypse. Anyway, let's actually get to the point of this.
Yeah, all right. So, we're jumping on the X-Men bandwagon by talking about X-Men 97.
Yeah, so the first episode we're going to talk about was the first episode.
What's it called?
That is going to be X-Men 97, Episode 1, To Me, My X-Men.
Cool.
That wasn't even me doing an accent. That was just, me being...
That was you being Charles Xavier / Cyclops / I'm not going to say
that was just my regular accent.
We can spoil this, can't we? Because that's the whole thing. Yeah, we can. Because
Never.
We can, because the whole
Spoiler
idea...
alert.
Yeah, the whole idea, if you're listening to this, then you've watched the show and you know what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. We're not going to be doing one of these coy reviews. In fact, this isn't even a review. This is just us talking about some of the cool stuff that we thought of when we watched the episode. So we're not going to do like a beat-by-beat breakdown of the episode talking about, first, Cyclops says this, to which... Wolverine responds, "You suck, Summers," etc.
Yeah, this is just the bits that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
And Luke.
Yeah, well, perhaps we'll alternate. So Mary's made a list of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, and I've made a list of... Yeah, I've also listed 5.
Okay, I want to first talk about...
Go first.
Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is kind of what they talked about in the 90s when the show first came out.
What's that?
Oh my God, this is something that might be about gay people.
Oh my God.
No. See,
the X-Men are woke?
Yeah, even when I was so young, I knew that I was a queer kid. I'm just going to be open and honest about that. I knew from a very young age that I was a queer kid. I really loved watching this because even at 6, 7, 8 years old, I watched this and I'm like, oh my God, I love that. Like there was nobody that was talking about it in Oklahoma. Let's be real. In like the early to mid 90s, nobody. But then I turn on this cartoon and I'm like, holy moly me oh my. People are talking about it, but it's kind of hidden. Mm-hmm. And that part sucked, that it had to be hidden. But even for a kid, I knew what they were talking about. Let's talk about that and how people think Gambit is gay because he wore a cropped t-shirt.
A pink crop top?
Yeah.
Gambit is gay. Now, listen here. Gambit touches things and makes them turn fluorescent pink. Okay?
And who cares if he was gay or not?
Yeah. And Gambit isn't gay. I would argue that he's perhaps bisexual. But
Ooh.
even still, it's been there from day one.
Yeah.
He touches things and makes them glow fluorescent pink and explode.
Here's the thing. If anybody says that, all right, because there have been people that have said that around the internet, do me a favor. Do me a favor and go on Google. I'll wait for you to go on there. Google 80s and 90s athletic fashion.
Oh, yes.
Okay? Yeah. And that's for men and women, all right? There were a lot of jocks that it was just so much easier in a crop tank because you were hiding your bits, but you were still not covered completely. So if you sweat and everything, that's that. And you know what? Stylish. And why do we care?
Well, yes, exactly. There is a small contingent on the internet that loses their collective shit whenever there's anything even remotely progressive or inclusive, as we saw with the Cape Crusader reaction.
Yeah.
However, these people should be routinely mocked for their reactionary small-mindedness.
It's getting boring.
Yeah, it is pretty boring, but I suppose it's predictable now. But we always have exactly the same response to it. Like, why does that matter?
Yeah. And you know what? Let's just talk about the kids out there that are from places like I was, like from Oklahoma, like small city Oklahoma, or from places where, you know, even if you are a fan of a gay artist, you get mocked, humiliated, and sometimes it gets really brutal. And I'm not just talking about verbal. Mm-hmm. But you have a cartoon that's saying, hey, this is all right to be different. This is great. This is wonderful. We're trying to change the world. And not change the world to, you know, erase ourselves. We're trying to change the world so we can live together. Mm-hmm. And that's not just talking about, you know, queer culture. It's also talking about racism.
Yes.
And it's talking about, you know, people with disabilities.
Xenophobia.
It's talking about so much, but people just want to grab on to, oh my God, Gambit might be gay because he's wearing a pink crop top.
Yes. Although it's interesting to note that as the series has progressed, those shrieking, shrill voices have been drowned out by voices like ours going, oh my God, this cartoon is excellent.
And it makes me so proud. It really does, because I am so proud of those people that will actually be like, hey, shut up. Shut up. No, shut up. And then they'll just, you know, let us carry on. Life is too short to, you know, let people hate. And yes, we're talking about it. But you know what? Conversation about it helps those people get smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah. And you know, it's not about making people feel small and stupid. It's about making them realise when they've made a mistake and reconsider and try and look at things from a different perspective and hopefully help them grow as people. As fun as it can be to dog on these simpletons, that's not really what we should be trying to do. We should be encouraging them to...
Educating.
Yeah, I mean, you can call it education. They would probably call it indoctrinate. But, yeah.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. There will be one again in a week or two. Or maybe a couple minutes. So I took over for like 10 minutes there.
That's fine. So my next point is a bit shorter. I should say it's my first point. I haven't had a chance yet. But my point is that Wolverine is hardly in this show. And that's quite interesting because he was a very prominent character in the 90s show. He had whole episodes dedicated to him, and as I mentioned before, they were very, very good. But he has a very small role in this. And part of that, I can't help but think it might have something to do with the fact that Cal Dodd, who voices Wolverine and voiced Wolverine in the original show, sounds like an old man now. And I'm not saying that to insult him, but his voice, he sounds like an old man.
I love it. But I thought in my weird brain that maybe they were, you know, giving more to the other characters.
That is also true.
And it's, you know what, there's another point that you have that maybe you should do next, that I think that one of the characters we've mentioned that your mom thought was like, wow.
I thought he was a dork. All right, okay.
And I think that there's so much more to that character just in like the first couple of episodes of this show. There's more substance to, I'm going to mention his name, to Scott.
You said Scott's real name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I'll jump straight into my second point then, and that is that Cyclops is cool now? Question mark. So Cyclops in the original show was always like this Boy Scout, stick up his butt, stickler for the rules kind of guy.
Kind of like I am in real life.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But in this show, they've made him way more dynamic, and he's just so damn cool.
He's got a Porsche. Sorry to interrupt it, but I just remembered that. That clicked in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, and he just casually crashes it, and he's like, yeah, fine, we'll just get another one. But anyway, no, but he has some of the best action sequences in the episode. So at the beginning, when they are rescuing a mutant that Mary's going to talk about later on from the Friends of Humanity, Cyclops is the one leading the rescue, and he's on his own initially, and he's just beating the crap out of them. He's using his powers in quite creative ways, so he uses the force of his beams to kind of shove himself backwards out of the way of their attacks. He does that famous scene where he pretends that he's surrendering. He goes, "Please, don't hurt me, I surrender." Not. And then knocks the stuffing out of them. Now, and that's a callback to the very first episode where Cyclops says something similar to a Sentinel, where it's like, "Surrender, mutant." He goes, "Oh, I surrender." Not.
Yeah,
and then shoots it with his laser beam.
So much.
And it's so 90s. It's so 90s. I can't remember the last time someone said something and then went, "Not."
Yeah.
Maybe we should start doing it again.
Yeah.
But my absolute favourite Cyclops moment is when they're flying to Bolivar Trask's location, and a Sentinel attacks the Blackbird, rips the top of it open and pulls Cyclops out, and the Blackbird's crashing. The X-Men are all using their powers to get to the ground safely. Cyclops just blasts the Sentinel's head off, checks in with his team over the radio, saying, "Is everyone okay? Yep, all right, well, see you on the ground then." And then he uses the beams to slow his fall, and just like the force from his eyes blowing into the ground causes him to gradually float down.
It was
and he
so
lands
fast.
And then goes, "To me, my X-Men," and they're all there.
Yes.
It was incredibly cool.
It was so cool. It's so reminiscent of the original series, but it's still fresh and fun because of things like that, and because I believe that they're letting Cyclops just actually be the leader and be his own kind of leader.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, kind of really some of that. Got to do it exactly this way all of the time.
Yeah.
And I like that.
So why don't we go over to your next point? Because it ties into what I said a moment ago.
Let's talk about Roberto.
Okay.
Roberto is one of the newer characters that is brought in. Is Roberto in the comics?
Yes, he is. He's one of the New Mutants.
Okay. So Roberto comes in, and he's from this affluent family that is like, I blah, 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 blah. You know, I'm not accepting, la-di-da-di-da.
They say that they are accepting, and they put on charity galas for the mutant cause. And they know that Roberto's a mutant, but he's keeping it to himself. And they're fine with that, so long as he's discreet. Which, it's that special kind of tolerance, isn't it? That kind of not in my backyard.
Yeah.
It's very disappointing to see. But sorry, I'm eating into your point.
No, it's fine. I hated that.
Yeah, of course.
So the character of Roberto, I feel that in hopefully season 2, they'll do a little bit more. But you always have to have that origin, don't you? That origin story. And I'm glad that they did it. But it's just, you get this icky thing because you're like, ugh. You know, there are like thousands of families out there that are like that.
Yes.
It sucks. But I loved his relationship with Jubilee.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a good relationship with her. He was very... I don't know if I'm using the correct term here, but I feel like he was a very closeted mutant. He wouldn't use his abilities in public. When he was caught by the Friends of Humanity, he was like, "Hey, look, no problem from me. I don't even want my powers."
I think that's an okay term to use. Yeah, and Jubilee really helped him, focus in on, hey, accept yourself and accept that these powers are a gift. And eventually we get there. And it's really great to see because there's a scene where all of the X-Men are together. Well, there's a couple of scenes, but the one in particular is in one of the last episodes. They're all working together. And he's using his powers, and you would think like, oh my god, he's been an X-Men the entire time. There's no because in the first couple of episodes of the original series, you knew Jubilee was like the new one. You knew that. But with Roberto, I didn't feel that in the later episodes. And I liked that. The fact that not only are the characters being provided with a bit more of a quicker origin story, but also accepting into the, the fighting more, because, they trust them enough to know to use their powers correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next point is, I kind of touched on it before, but there are some really great action scenes in this episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to hone in particularly on the Sentinel fight in the scrapyard in the desert. And what a lovely metaphor that was. So you have Bolivar Trask and his Sentinels in this scrapyard where they've been consigned because, as Trask says later on, the future has left him behind, has left all of humanity behind. So that them being based in the trash, in the garbage, in the waste is very indicative of their position in society. They are the ones that have been cast aside broadly by society. Their ideas are in the past, in the waste. And there's really great action sequences here where, for instance, I like the bit where Bishop kind of rewires one of the Sentinels and starts piloting it like a mech to punch stuff, and that comes up again later on. Rogue does a good job, as does Storm. They really love Storm in this series, don't they? But Storm's even got her own little theme tune, isn't she? That
We'll talk more about Storm and not that tune in the later episode. Because it needs to be talked about.
She has got a wonderful introduction in that fight where you can just see the clouds forming and the lightning striking, turning the sand to glass. And she has her very verbose speech about, you are petty and small.
It really, when I watched this, I didn't think I would have such a reaction to it. But that's one of the scenes that you knew, as soon as I saw those clouds, I felt I got literal chills. I know, like, there's a podcast called Crime Junkie where they say that. I'm like, at that very moment in time, I knew. I was like, I am getting chills because I know it's coming. I know it's coming. And then you see all of it. You hear a voice, and it's beautiful.
And I think for me, the coolest moment, though, was Gambit jumping on Wolverine's back as he charges at the Sentinels, and he charges Wolverine's adamantium. So, there he is again, turning Wolverine pink.
Oh my god.
But it made it. In the comic books, there's always like this notion of the X-Men teaming up and combining their powers. The most famous one is the Fastball Special, where Colossus picks up Wolverine and just throws him like a spear as hard as he can. And this is kind of their version of it, except it's Gambit charges Wolverine up, Morph turns into the Blob, and Wolverine bounces off of the Blob's stomach to launch himself in the air through the Master Mold. And it was a very brief section, but it was very, very cool.
But it's again, it's an homage to the comics, of course, but also to the original series, because you're it's 3 different characters.
Yeah.
And we know their abilities, and then they're being used like that for a really cool scene.
Yeah. Yes, you can tell that the people involved in this show really know their stuff.
And that they care.
Yes.
And that's something that I didn't expect. When Luke told me that that this was coming out, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to watch it. But I'm going to be so disappointed because it's going to be, it's a cash grab. I don't know why I would think that, but
a nostalgia crash? Nostalgia cash grab.
No, but it's not, because the creators actually care. And I believe you hear them say the shit word.
I think you said piss.
Oh, piss, not shit. I was hoping for shit.
Shit went down, but I don't believe they said it, but they definitely said pissed off.
All right, so...
And there was blood as well.
Oh, yeah, that was a big thing.
Yeah, that would never be allowed in the old days.
Yeah, that was huge.
Yeah.
Because in the cartoons, Saturday morning cartoons, and also for my brother and I were the afternoon cartoons, like after school ones, because they were in syndication, no blood.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. You have one speck of, you think that might look like blood? Absolutely not. So my next point is going to be, we had no idea Jamie Ray was pregnant.
Well, yes, so that indicates that time has passed, doesn't it, since the end of the last episode?
Oh, it's like when the hair grows.
Yes, or someone grows a beard.
Or they have grey hair.
Yes. Yeah. So, yeah. In movies with men, to indicate the passage of time, it's usually like a moustache is grown or a beard. And with ladies, they get pregnant.
Of course.
Or they suddenly have a child who is now X amount of years older.
Yeah. And that's really that point, to be honest with you, because there's not a lot to talk about in this episode.
No, but because of her pregnancy, she is not present during the fights.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that she could not help.
That's right.
You remember when she interrogated Gyrick?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so she used her powers and Cerebro. I always find Cerebro kind of funny because it's kind of like Cerebro.
Well, because we can do spoilers on this. It's not actually Jean that's pregnant.
No, it's not.
It's Madeline.
Yes.
And that becomes something.
It does later on.
Another
yes.
love triangle that Scott's in.
Yeah, yes.
I just realized that. I was like, good Lord.
He doesn't like a quiet romantic life, does he? No.
Yeah. But again, we'll talk about that again in another episode.
Yeah. All right, so something I want to mention is Bishop joining the X-Men. Now, they don't actually say why Bishop came back in time or why he cut off his lustrous hair.
Mm-hmm. Which was a shame.
Yes. But I thought he was quite a good addition to the X-Men because they spend a lot of the episode fighting people that shoot laser beams at them, and his power is to absorb energy and fire it back at people, which makes him very effective against the Friends of Humanity and the Sentinels. So that was a very good choice to bring him with them on their part. Something I found curious, though, is that in the previous animated series, when Bishop takes off his time band, he's pulled to his regular time. In this show, though, his time band is broken, and he's not wearing it.
He's in this time.
Yeah. Well, that's not his regular time zone.
Yeah,
though,
I mean, he's in 97 rather than going back to, like, what year is he from?
3000 and something.
Yeah.
No, it won't be that far. It'd be the 2000s.
Yeah. So it's weird.
Yeah, so you would have thought the moment it broke, he would have been brought back to whatever year it was, 2030 or something like that. But no.
Are we going to have lasers by then?
Well, according to X-Men, we already had lasers in the 90s. But anyway, I think adding Bishop was cool. Great new power set to play around with. Some good action scenes. Yeah, a little bit more depth, a little bit more diversity. Great stuff.
Diversity in a kid's show?
I said the D word. Oh no.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Light the pitchforks and fetch your torches.
I got, it was so controversial I had to change my seat. You can hear my squeaky chair. All right, so I am going to talk about, which one of these should I talk about?
The bottom one.
The bottom one. No Professor X.
Yeah.
Yet.
Spoilers again.
So I didn't enjoy it because I would have liked Professor X just to be there the whole time because I love Professor X. I liked the fact that he was not in the first couple of episodes because it gives more attention to Scott and to Jean and Madeline and to the other characters. And I really, really liked that. And it shows that they can work together without him, but they might just be a little bit better with him. But they think that, but whenever you get further into the series, you realize it's not just about Professor X, because there's a huge scene that involves a meteor. There was an asteroid.
Yeah.
Professor X is indisposed, and they are working together because of great communication, and they're using their powers the way that they that will work with each other, and it is awesome. And Professor X doesn't come in to help them because he's indisposed.
Yeah.
As I said.
So the thing is, even though Professor X isn't in the first episode, because he was, air quotes, killed.
Yeah.
In the last episode of X-Men, the animated series, he was shot by Henry Gyrick. And his death kind of triggered a wave of support across the globe for mutants and made them more acceptable. More accepted, I should say, in society. So his kind of presence was felt, even though he was deceased, for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. But in terms of him, being able to tell the X-Men what to do, or suggest things to what to do, the X-Men, the gauntlet was kind of handed over to Scott and Jean, mainly Scott.
Well, that's what you think.
Yeah. That's for the episode next time.
Yeah. So I guess my last point to go on to is I want to talk about another, well, I suppose you could call him a new regular addition to the team. Mm-hmm. And that's Morph and his new face. So in the original series, Morph had a very human face. He had his human face with his brown hair. Mm-hmm. When he had been killed by the Sentinels and resurrected by Mr. Sinister, he had a bit more of a distorted face with like huge purple bags under his eyes, and his skin had a sickly green tint to it, indicating his trauma. Now that he's mostly recovered from this, although he does make multiple references to the abuse he endured at the hands of Sinister, his new face is entirely blank and bald, and he has a white, almost featureless face. This character design was introduced in the X-Men Age of Apocalypse comics. So I thought that was a really nice nod to that, because that's probably the most significant Morph storyline ever. Because Morph was based on a character called Changeling, who impersonated Professor X and was assassinated. So he died as Professor X, and everyone thought Professor X was dead when really it was Morph, or Changeling, excuse me. And then they kind of revived him for the Age of Apocalypse storyline, which was an alternate reality after Legion. That was it. Legion went back in time to try to kill Magneto because he felt that Magneto was the one getting in the way of Professor X's dream of human and mutant coexistence. But in the scuffle, he accidentally killed Professor X. And that changed reality from that point on, where Apocalypse took over Earth. And you've got all these different versions of the characters. So, for instance, Cyclops was adopted by Mr. Sinister and is one of Apocalypse's acolytes. The X-Men are led by Magneto and his wife Rogue. Angel is he runs like a nightclub that allows humans and mutants in, but humans are like the underclass in Apocalypse's post-apocalyptic world. But Morph is one of the X-Men, and he's a very joyous, funny character. And I thought that was a very interesting... There's me using that word again. Interesting. I need to get a thesaurus, don't I? Someone tell me some more adjectives I could use instead of interesting. Anyway, I thought it was a very... God damn it, I'm trying to say interesting again. I found the choice of his featureless face to be psychologically revealing for Morph. So he's basically trying to hide himself in a way so that you can't read his expressions. Now, he's very catty and jokey. Like in this episode, when we first see him, he's pretending to be Professor X, telling Scott to chill out and let Gambit cook his beignets. Is that what they're called?
Beignets, yes.
Yeah, the little donuts. And, he's having a good old laugh, and he's very close with Wolverine.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Rewind. Let's go to the beignets.
Yeah.
He's in his workout clothes.
Yes.
And he's having beignets.
Yeah.
I hate him. Because I, as a curvaceous lady, I would love to be able to eat beignets for breakfast and not have to go for workouts. Anyways, yeah, I was really surprised by that because I didn't know the full story of Morph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's not the full story, but that's most of it.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me to see them reintroduce Morph in the comics if they haven't done so already, considering in like the recent X-Men comics, which admittedly I've not really been reading for the last 5 years or so, but they introduced this concept of the mutants being able to overcome death and resurrect everyone that had ever died.
I would hate that so much.
Yeah,
like if that was real life, I would hate it.
Just let me rest, God damn it.
No, it's not that, because there would be that one person, that one little brother that would get mad at you for something so small, like cheating at Go Fish. Mm-hmm. All right, they would be like, I'm going to bring back someone that called you fat or something ridiculous, probably more sinister than that. And it would be absolutely dreadful. Ugh. Shall I talk about my last point?
Yeah, go on then.
Magnus.
Yes, the last will and testament of Charles Xavier. So I was going to mention this when you talked about there was no Professor X. Mm-hmm. And this is related to what I was saying earlier about his influence was felt. Because this is your point, you should be talking, I'm sorry.
So when Magnus is Magneto, obviously.
What?
Yeah. When he is introduced in this series, it's because he has been handed the X-Men. He has been given the X-Men by Professor X in his will. And he is supposed to, Professor X does things because he wants you to learn from them. He's a professor, and not just the academics, but also just everything in life. And I think this, if he really would have been dead, would have been his last gift of teaching. And he's probably gave him the X-Men to show him that there's good in this world. And people can do good for good things, even though bad things happen.
Yes, it was very much a gift to Magnus as much as it was to give the X-Men someone to lean on and gain support from.
Yeah, and it was really great how they did it, because they gave Magnus a heart that, I mean, he's always had a heart, but you really saw the goodness in this character. And when I say goodness, I'm not saying, oh my God, 100% changed, complete 180,
no,
whatever. No, that's not what I'm talking about. So when I talk about goodness can also be about changing yourself for the better. And I think that's what he's trying to do, because he is trying to see the good rather than just all of the horrible things in life.
Yeah, I mean, I think the previous 6 months of watching humanity slowly embrace mutants it's kind of given him some hope as well.
Hope, yeah.
Ooh, maybe I don't have to be as hostile as I have been. Maybe Charles was right. Maybe I should give this a try in honour of my dead friend.
Brother.
Yes.
Because they call each other brother, by the way. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I was so happy to see that. I mean, I would have been happy either way, whether he was like an evil dickhead or, the Magnus that we get. Which, spoiler alert, it's not all peachy keen.
No, but the thing is, Magneto's not a cookie cutter villain.
No.
With I want to take over the world, bwahaha motivations.
Because there's reason behind his evil.
Yes, you can entirely understand why he says and does the things that he does. There's a reason why they keep saying throughout the show, Magneto was right. Magneto is right. That was a thing that came out of Grant Morrison's X-Men comics nearly 20 years ago. Oh my God, 20 years ago. When, because in the comics, when Genosha was attacked, they thought Magneto was dead. And so you had these kind of counterculture teens walking around with Magneto was right t-shirts, a bit like those Che Guevara t-shirts that you see people wearing every now and then.
That's a whole nother topic for another thing.
For another episode.
there's when I was at high school, I saw someone wearing a Che shirt, and I was like, oh, do you know who that is? Because I literally just watched a program. It wasn't because I was like totally in the know. I just watched a program, and they were like, who? I was like, Che, like the person on your shirt. They're like, no, we just got this at Walmart. Or I don't know if it was Walmart or wherever, but I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, how depressing would that be if they were selling Magneto shirts at Target and Walmart? Oh God, he'd turn in his grave.
Just like they're selling Tupac and Biggie shirts at Primark. That's exactly what they wanted. But yeah, going back to Magnus, I was happy with the way that they portrayed him in this. Like, I was really happy. And I love the fact that it's not just, oh my God, he's just this one-page character. Absolutely not. They let him have his emotions. And they didn't just give him, he has to be 100% good throughout this entire series, because there are times where he's like, he says what's on his mind, and there are times when he learns lessons because he's starting to see the world as the shitty place that it is again, without seeing the good. And I love that, because a leader, if they can only see certain aspects of the world, how are they going to lead that world?
I agree.
Yeah. So that's all of my points.
I've done all of mine as well.
So what was you probably said it, your favorite part of this episode?
Oh, it was the fight with the Sentinels in the scrapyard.
Yeah.
What about yours?
When they brought Magnus in.
At the end of the episode?
Yeah. I loved the entire episode, but I loved that they didn't just start out with that. Because, again, they gave space and room for the other characters to grow. Yeah. Just like with Wolverine not being in it, although he's my favorite character. I love that the other characters are getting some storylines that don't have to involve Wolverine. They don't have to involve Professor X completely. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and one final thought on this show is I really appreciated the fact that they used a lot of tricks to hide the fact that they might have had a budgetary restriction on the show. So what I mean by that is they'll often have shots of characters talking, but you won't see their mouths because the mouths have to move when they're talking. You might see a close-up on their eyes, or maybe beam. Yeah, or a beam, or maybe you see that from the back of their head a lot of the time. Now, classic cartoons used to do this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But they wouldn't frame it in a particularly artistic way. They would just be, you'd see an episode of Scooby-Doo where a character's talking and you could just see the back of their head, and then they turn around at the last second. In this, every one of those shots where I presume they were doing it to save budget, it was very well framed, and they would use the animation when it had to be used. They would use it tactically, and it pays off really well.
Yeah. It's the style of this show, although not too terribly different. It is just, I'm going to say, you have a word you're saying all the time. I'm just saying beautiful all this entire episode. It's brilliantly done. And honestly, the creators, the voice actors, the directors, they all did a great job.
Yeah, they did. And they did bring back a lot of the original voice actors, like Cal Dodd as Wolverine, I already mentioned. George Boozer, I think is his name, as Beast. Lenore Zan as Rogue. Again, you could tell that she was older. She kind of sounded a little bit like an auntie.
You better watch your mouth.
I'm not slagging her off. I'm not slagging her off. I'm just saying, you can tell that time has passed, but it wasn't detrimental at all.
No, of course not.
But the new voice actors that they brought in were very authentic. I mean, they obviously weren't the original voice actors, but they were very true to the spirit of them. And Ross Marquand, I'm not entirely certain I'd say his name, he's like the saviour of Marvel at the moment, because when Hugo, what was his name? Hugo Weaving? Mm-hmm. Is that his name?
Yep.
Yeah, he didn't want to come back as the Red Skull for the Avengers movies, because he was the Red Skull in Captain America. Ross Marquand stepped in to play the Red Skull. When the actor that played, I believe the actor that played Professor X has passed away, Ross Marquand steps in to play him. And then there's another villain that in X-Men that shows up in the last episode. Ross Marquand voices him as well, presumably because the voice actor is no longer with us. But yeah, overall, really great on the voice acting front, and the animation's pretty decent despite some obvious budgetary limitations.
Well, there was one huge thing.
Okay.
About this. I've not even spoken to you about this. I was kind of annoyed. Even though he wasn't in the original series. Where the hell is Michael Rosenbaum?
He was off Schwaying.
Yes, he was. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. And we will get into some comments.
Okay, so comments from the first episode. So first off, we have the Smile Guy has drawn a smiley face with characters.
That's a frowny face.
No, it's a smile. Look, there's eyes, moustache, and a big smile.
Oh, that's
See?
I've never seen that one before. That's neato.
Yeah, he does a lot of different smiley faces, as you can see when he replied to Big Mikey P.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to start. No, I'm going to say I'm going to start doing it, but then in reality, I don't do, like, emoticons very often unless like yesterday when I was talking to Luke, I just did emoticons because I was in the middle of watching something. So it was just, like, my past things. Anyways, that doesn't matter.
So, Dufuxa. Hello, Dufuxa.
Hey, you.
Says, Bruce Timm kind of blew it with Barbara. The sex scene was just a step too far. As for Yin and Ethan, I wouldn't mind seeing them explored again, but they were from a cartoon that was trying to fill the void left by Beatas. Unfortunately, while the show was decent, it didn't hold a candle to Beatas. Plus, there were the stupid rules at the time regarding what characters could appear where. So he was talking about the point I made last episode about how when shows have tried to make characters... new characters of different ethnicities, the fan base tends to just ignore them and go, where's the main character, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I take your point that the Batman wasn't for everyone. I mean, I didn't really care for it that much until the later seasons, but by that point they'd abandoned a lot of their own unique identity and were just kind of following the same format as Batman the Animated Series, at least for their better episodes. But the point still stands that those were good characters that are generally liked by the fan base, broadly, but they don't get used because people spent most of the time complaining that Commissioner Gordon wasn't there and like, where's Harvey Bullock, etc, etc. Okay, Yark9, a new commenter, says people need to stop crying about racism for sake of crying about racism. It's a cartoon, like racism matters in these cartoons. Well, my friend, I would like to say that we should combat racism wherever we come across it because it is a disease. It is odious. If you allow it to gain roots in one place, it will spread to others. We need to stamp it out. All right, so next comment from David Carney. Hello, David. Nice to see you made the flip.
Hello.
I think that's going to be the expression, they made the flip.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you regarding the criticism. It's like we can have nice things and it makes me angry. If they don't like it, don't watch or interact with it. Let us enjoy it. I agree. And actually, David, you've hit the nail on the head there. Before getting upset about this kind of thing, why don't you try watching it first before you make yourself look like a fool, like all those people moaning about diversity in X-Men? Next, we have David BTAS. Hello, David. Thank you for coming over, making the flip. They just decided.
Making the flip.
Yeah, they made the flip.
Yeah.
I look forward to and excited to see Golden Age Clayface brought to life in Batman Cape Crusader. Me too.
Word.
I'm actually going to make a short video about everything we know about Cape Crusader's Clayface. It's going to be a little bit speculative based on the wording of the press release and some of the material that's been released. It will probably be live by the time this goes out. I'm going to try and edit it together on, I don't know, Sunday or Monday. And get it out this week along with my usual video essay. So hopefully you'll watch that. Anything to add, Mary? You're just nodding along.
What you guys didn't see is I took an eyelash off of Luke's nose, and I didn't make a wish because it fell on the floor.
Okay. Next comment, someone else who made the flip. Big Mikey P, Michael Andre Parlon.
Hey, Mikey.
He says, oh yes, the Golden Age Batman is also one who casually fought and staked vampires, I think. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
At 4:50 mark, we really need to find a way to get an awesome nickname for that film to avoid confusion. Think Prey 2017 becoming Neuroshock. Say what anyone will of the MCU nowadays, I'm not afraid to say that Captain America, the First Avenger and The Winter Soldier are among the peak films. Disney quality filmmaking and storytelling peaks even. Yeah, I would agree. I love Winter Soldier. I think it's excellent.
I think that was the peak.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Endgame and...
You know, I love Thor Ragnarok, but that's because of the music, honestly. But yeah, I think you're right.
Continuing the comment, I hope this Catwoman will ditch the cape after a near-death experience because of it. Also, the cleavage may be toned down after an injurious heist or two. I'm a sucker for character outfit development. They better do a bait and switch and actually get rid of the Joker early on. No resurrections and fake deaths either. He's actually dead to rights at the start or end of the first season. And if they do a Red Hood, it better be Jason Todd iteration, except this iteration should actually be Jean-Paul Valley, the Azrael of another universe. I actually thought this Clayface was an obscure Golden Age Batman villain brought to animated life. Which one? Gotta love the Batman 2004's Ethan Bennett. That redemption was totally worth it. I'm fine with the characters Quinzel and Gordon being of different races. Does justifiably concern me, though, that the setting may mean a 1930s or 40s era that seems racially kinder than our own real world, which some folks will understandably not like. Stuff like My Adventures with Superman makes sense since they are set in our flawed but altogether more open 21st century in comparison.
I didn't actually think about that.
Well, that's one way of viewing it, yes. I mean, you have to remember Batman the Animated Series was also set in a similarly influenced time period, but they rarely said the actual dates other than on Charlie Collins's driver's license. But they still had African Americans in prominent positions like Lucius Fox.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of many others off the top of my head. There was the CEO of a company that was voiced by LeVar Burton in The Worrymen.
Reading Rainbow.
Continuing the comment, wish Justice League and Justice League Unlimited still did a spotlight episode for a returning Green Lantern Kyle Rayner. Plus, why not cameo Ace Fighter pilot Hal Jordan as the flight leader of a new generation of Black Hawks fighting against the Imperium, Thanagarians, and the Apocalyptians? Can understand some criticism in the show. In a nutshell, we do live in a world where even the Me Too movement can over-exaggerate enough to condemn truly good men, while the Black Lives Matter movement I have qualms against for overkills like inexcusable looting. Sucks being in a grey versus grey world, and I do wish we go back to the black and white perspective of World War I and World War II, no matter the cost. At 33 minutes and 22 seconds, nowadays, even in-universe characters will criticise Superman as too social justice warrior, though. Nitpicky world we live in. 33 minutes and 45 seconds, a temporary reprieve. Wouldn't be surprised if the Powers family shuttered those progressive ideals down when they took over Wayne Enterprises for, 23 years? On a side note, I wonder if X-Men 97 Season 1 will end by setting up the Avengers vs. X-Men arc. Would be shocking and awesome to see Iron Man, Captain America. Okay, how the heck did he get out of the interdimensional limbo after the events of Spider-Man the Animated Series, Forgotten Six Warriors, and Secret Wars arc? Ooh, I need to take a breath. The Incredible Hulk, the Mighty Thor, a coma-cured Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent 1 doing a Black Widow, and especially Spider-Man be officially sanctioned to retaliate against this now wayward supergroup of mutants. Well, if you watch that last episode, you might see little tiny hints of that.
Little specks.
Yes. I'm curious who'll be the voice actors. Will they be live-action actors? An example would be Lawrence Fishburne as Disney's Moongold Beyonder. Western animation and video game veteran, says a chance Lauren Tom will voice this Harley, Kevin Michael Richardson as Gordon, and or superlative anime dubbers with the occasional experience on web animation, Lizzie Freeman and Lisa Remold, popped into my mind for this. What with respective works like Lycoris, Recoil, and Delicious in Dungeon, plus The Amazing Digital Circus and Lackadaisy. Concluding remark, I think the audio volume for this episode should be increased. Yeah.
It's my fault, because I wasn't speaking into the mic like Luke told me to. I kept looking over at the window, and then I just kept sitting back in the chair. I hope it's going to be better this time.
Yeah, I'll also raise the audio volume as well.
Who was the guy who did Cleveland in the Cleveland show? Mike something. He's just going to do all of the voices in this.
Oh, God.
That's right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Commissioner Gordon. Please don't.
This is Commissioner Gordon.
All right, next comment. So, Beatles fan Sam. Hello, Sam. Thank you for making the flip. I'm really looking forward to this series. My favourite character designs based on the initial images are Batman and Catwoman. I agree with Mary that Clayface has a Jonah Hex look to him. I prefer the Dr. Harley and Quinzel look over Harley Quinn, and the former gives me Lois Lane vibes. Which is true, she does. Very smiley. She looks like a journalist, doesn't she? Mm-hmm. But no, she's a psychiatrist. Okay, so next comment is from RDP16 Rules, who has also made the flip.
Hey.
I think almost everybody here has made the flip.
Woohoo.
Awesome start to the new podcast, Luke and Mary. Hey, I got first billing this time.
Oh, yeah.
This new series has me excited to see it. I wonder how it will compare to another throwback Batman property, The Audio Adventures on Max. That series is fantastic. It helps that most of the voice cast are seasoned improvisers from Saturday Night Live and Second City. Also, I am thrilled to hear your opinions on X-Men 97. There is so much to discuss, and it's been great hearing so many people talking about it.
Well, well, I hope you enjoy us talking about it. Hopefully it'll be... I keep saying this a lot. Hopefully it's going to be a bit more structured. It's not. That's just who I am.
Cool. So next comment. Blue Knight Beyond says, I am very excited to see the show, and I think people need to chill out until the show releases.
Word.
Yep, agreed.
Word to your mother.
Next, we have Frozen Jack 2007, another flipper. We have to start saying, flipping Frozen Jack 2007.
A flipper to me is with like pageant girls, like from 5 to I think 11, wear the fake teeth, the clip-on teeth. Ugh. I think that's called a flipper.
Oh, I don't want to be associated with preteen pageants. Anyway, Frozen Jack 2007 says, I shouldn't be surprised that people cried about Commissioner Jim and Dr. Harley being different. What insecure children.
I love you.
Note, I love the end screen. Yeah, that's actually, I got our cat Gilgamesh on it. You know, the one that you occasionally hear in the podcast knocking stuff over and being a nuisance.
Do you want to tell him what he's doing in that picture?
He is peering around a corner when we've got the fridge open, licking his lips going, give me some chicken.
Yeah. We buy him his own chicken, as in like sliced chicken. He loves it. It doesn't have any like salts or anything in it, so it's okay for him to eat. I should put that out there.
Yeah, it's his favourite thing in the universe.
It really is.
Okay, final comment was from Captain Al says, Captain Al, a returning flipper.
Captain Al.
I've got to stop saying flipper because what we just talked about with the teen pageants. Okay, so Captain Al says, I'm so sick of the reactionary xenophobic complaints about race swapping. It doesn't matter 95% of the time. By the time any possible legitimate complaint arises, I already know they don't actually care. If the show is explicitly set in the 40s, I actually hope Gordon's race will be a plot point, that he sticks it to the man, and I can't wait to see this completely fresh take on Harley as brought to us by a team including her own creator. What a unique opportunity Bruce Timm has to invent a fan favourite twice.
Your comment sums up how I feel 100%. So thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I just want to say this. I am really trying to do something with this podcast, and I know it doesn't get out to like thousands of people, and that's okay. What I love about it is the fact that I can talk to you guys, and we have returning people like RDP, David Clooney, and Captain Alice, and
Big Mikey P.
Oh, obviously Big Mikey P. How was I gonna forget him? I actually really think of you guys as my close friends now. And honestly, it's been so great to actually have... This is something I told my therapist last week. It's really great that I'm doing something that... It makes me happy to talk about the things that I feel are important sometimes. It's great to talk about things I'm interested in and not feel like... strange or odd, or have people always just talk about my my insecurities because somehow they always find out what they are before I even do. And I want to thank you guys for letting me be myself. And sometimes I'm a little weird, but I really don't think you guys care. So I just want to put that out there. So thank you. And we are going to talk more about X-Men because I really like this series. And some of the episodes are going to be grouped together, like the Storm episodes. And yeah, and we'll talk about other stuff too, obviously. But thank you so much. The next episode is going to be about episode 2, because that's quite an important, like a really, really important episode. And it's called Mutant Liberation Begins. It's got loads of madness in it. So yeah, again, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I don't really have anything extra to add. I'm just here to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I'll catch you on the flip side. Or the dark side. No, not the dark side. That's copyrighted. We'll catch you on the flip side.